Hey all, for those listening, my name's Mia Lacerte from a Greater Applegate, and I'm here with Katie Walker today, who is one of our recipients of the Innovation Grant for this 2025-2026 cycle. And I'm going to chat with her a little bit about her projects and her inspiration. So thanks for being here with us today, Katie.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to share about it.
Yeah, the first thing I would love to know is just what inspired you to start your nonprofit, Sticks and Stones, and starting this program, the Nature Art Explorations. Anything you want to share about your inspiration for those?
Yeah. Well, I started the nonprofit about 2.5 years ago when I first moved to Oregon. And the main inspiration was just that I believe that all children should have access to opportunities to make art, no matter what their circumstances are, especially their socioeconomic status. And before I ran this nonprofit, I worked for a for-profit art program, art school, and we ran really great classes for the community, but we always kind of noticed that they weren't accessible to all of the children in our community because they were pricey, basically. And so when I moved here, and me and my business partner had always talked about becoming a nonprofit so that we could offer classes to everyone in our community and that it wouldn't be so based on where they were socioeconomically. And a lot of our children, while we were providing a really great service for them, it was like the kids that are choosing between horseback riding lessons and ballet classes and art. And I thought, man, that's great that these kids are getting art, but everyone deserves the opportunity to have enriching artistic opportunities. And then when I moved here to Oregon, I was looking around for art programming in the school district, and I realized that a lot of the school districts have cut their art programs for K through 5 schools. And so that, in my mind, that means that those kids that don't have access because they might not be able to afford outside of school classes in art are having even less opportunities to have art programming because they're not having it in their normal school day anymore. So when I started Sticks and Stones, the idea was to kind of close that opportunity gap and say, like, here's an art education program that can come into different schools and provide that art opportunity for all those children that might not be getting it anymore. And so far, that's meant partnering with the Ruch Outdoor Community School, whose art program got cut right after COVID. And and I mean, the goal is to get into more schools and reach more children and just make sure that they all have these opportunities that everyone kind of needs.
That's amazing, Katie. What impact are you seeing from the art programs being cut?
In a lot of schools, I'm seeing that there's kind of this lack of a creative outlet for children. They still have their music programs, and some of them are have STEAM programs, which is like STEM plus. Happy to see that still trying to keep some of that programming. But what I've seen mostly is that there's a lot of focus now on social emotional learning and how we input that into our curriculum. Teaching kids how to regulate their emotions, how to express themselves in healthy ways, how to have healthy relationships with other children and their peers and their teachers. And that I kind of think to myself, that was what your art program was helping with. It was giving them an outlet to express themselves, to say what they needed to say in a creative and healthy way. And now that those programs are cut, I'm kind of seeing that there's more behavioral issues, to be honest. And in the schools where I have been able to bring art, there's even the teachers have been saying, "Wow, we're really seeing a difference in the children. Like they're much more excited to be in school. They're a little more regulated. They're not having big outbursts or big feelings that they're having trouble handling." In fact, I last year had the opportunity to be in a special ed classroom at a high school. I had just like picked up a subbing job there, and then while I was subbing for 2 weeks, we did so much art with the kids, and it was such a big impact on them, like with their mental health and emotional health, that they asked me to stay, and I stayed all year just doing art with the kids. It was amazing. so really, I think it's just like art is invaluable to emotional health and mental health. And that's kind of something I'm trending more towards with the programs I'm trying to offer, as well as really focusing on art as kind of an outlet for children and adults and teens. So yeah,
Yeah, that sounds so impactful for the kids in the program and then the families that they are in as well.
yeah.
Are there any specific stories from this last round that you're able to share about the impact that it had?
Yeah, the one story that really has stuck with me throughout, there are so many like really beautiful little moments that I'd love to share, but this one moment was really special because there was a little girl in one of our in the Nature Art Explorations program, which was the program that was helped funded by the Innovation Grant. And her parents had pulled me aside before class and told me, just keep an eye on her because we're going through some family stuff right now, and her mom's in the hospital, and it's been kind of scary for her, and she's kind of coping with that. And during we have free time art where we're not really doing anything project based. It's the kids are allowed to make whatever they want in whatever studio they want. And I came outside and she had built with a couple of her friends a whole little hospital model from our sculpture studio. And so she had all her little stuffies and they all had little cozy beds and some of them had IVs hooked up to them that she'd created, like made, and little like televisions for them to watch movies so they could be comfortable. And so she started like taking in patients from the other children because I allowed them all to bring stuffies to this program because they're not allowed to bring any toys to school. So I was like, bring your stuffies for this. It's not really school. And so the kids would bring their stuffies to the hospital to get treated and healed. And um, as she was doing it, I don't think I realized it in the moment, but then when I went home and reflected on it, I was like, she was totally processing what she's going through at home right now, and taking something that was really scary and different and new to her, and using art to make it more comfortable and manageable and less scary to her. And I was like, wow, that is so beautiful. And those sorts of experience I see happening a lot when they have that freedom, which is something I'm really passionate about in art education, is teaching them how to think more like artists and giving them the freedom to make art the way they want to, and not so much like project-based stuff where they go home with projects that look just like the project I made and showed them how to make, but more like things that, I couldn't have planned for a project where she was going to build a hospital. That just wouldn't be doable. Like it had to come from her. Um, so anyway, yeah, it's those kind of experiences that really help me see and hopefully others see how impactful art programming can be at schools, and how it gives them that outlet to explore like heavier and complex emotions.
It's incredible. What a beautiful and healthy outlet for them.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, and what a cool story. I can just picture that.
Yeah, at first I was like, oh man, this thing's getting pretty big and she's taking up a lot of materials and it's really
Mhm.
sprawling all over the classroom and maybe I should like hone it in. And I was like, no, I'm not going to. I'm just gonna like step back and let this unfold. And that kind of giving them that kind of freedom is really where you get the best results because they're really just like free to explore and play.
Yeah, and that adaptability just speaks to you as an artist and you as an educator, knowing when to give the space and when to give freedom and when they might need a little bit of guidance and project support.
Yeah, thank you. I'm actually really passionate about TAB. I don't know if you know what that is. It's
Mhm.
TAB is the acronym, and it stands for Teaching for Artistic Behavior. And it's all about providing kids with a space and like the facilitation to explore their ideas and create artwork that's really of their own design. So the idea is that way they're learning to think and work like artists actually do. So rather than me coming up with like a project that I want them to do and then showing them all the steps of how to do it, they're really learning what inspiration feels like. Like they're learning what it feels like to get an idea, to look around the art classroom, the art studio, and say, like, how am I going to make this idea something tangible? And then picking out what they need to do to make it, And then, you know, along the way, going through the challenges any artist goes through of like, oh, well, that didn't work. I'm gonna have to try something different. Um, or, you know, that doesn't look exactly how I wanted it to. What could I do to change things? And it's really teaching them, you know, just beyond even the art classroom, it's teaching them how to solve problems creatively and to think outside the box and, you know, to collaborate with others. There's just so many takeaways from that sort of teaching that I think are invaluable. It's funny because sometimes like parents don't see it because their kid will come home with like a toilet paper tube with googly eyes glued all over it. This is an example I use a lot because it actually happened. A kid had made this, it was just a toilet paper tube with googly eyes. And his mom was like, great, this is beautiful. And then he explains it to his mom. It's actually a telescope that can see all directions all at once.
Mhm.
And so, you know, just to us looking at it, we're like, oh, that's not something I want to frame or put on my wall. But it's more about like the process of making it and coming up with that idea and then you know, following through and creating that idea and making something real. That's just better, you know, more, it's better for their little brains than just following directions, you know. So that's something I try to incorporate as much as I can into any of my programs.
Yeah, that's incredible problem solving, and also seems like it really creates a sense of accomplishment when they're able to put an idea
Yeah.
from their head into something so physical.
Yes, and it's funny because the projects they want to take home are the projects that they make when we have that free time studio, the
Mhm.
tab studio. And it's funny because sometimes the projects that you know, the more project-based stuff that I do with them, which it has its merits, of course, too. They don't
Yeah.
want to take it home though. I'm like, take it home. And they're like, oh, okay, finally I'll take it home. But like the projects that I have left over at the end of the school year are not the projects that they make during their tab time. Those things I'm like fighting with them to keep for art shows, you know? And they're like, no, I need to take it home today to show my family because they're proud of it. You know, it came from them. So
Yeah.
that's really cool. Hmm.
Yeah, such a sense of pride too.
Yeah.
So, Katie, what's next? Are you doing another round of programming? How can people find out about what you're doing? And I can leave any links in the comments too, so people
Oh,
can
yeah.
click on things and see your website and support you.
Great. Yeah. Well, so next coming school year, I'm getting geared up for it now and trying to get some funding together to do the Nature Art Explorations program again next school year. So that program was the specific program that the Innovation Grant helped fund that ran on Mondays during the school year. So Ruch Outdoor Community School actually doesn't hold class on Mondays. So when I first started doing art programming there, I was like, what are parents doing on Mondays with their kids? They must struggle to find childcare, especially up in our, you know, rural location. And turns out that is a big issue parents have up here. So there was just resounding feedback of how helpful it was to have some sort of Monday programming at the school. So that program was all about teaching kids to explore themselves and the world around them, specifically through the lens of like environmental art and nature-based art education. So we studied like Andrew Goldsworthy, who's a famous land artist and made artwork out in the forest like his, and studied like bushcraft and how to make shelters and maps and things like that. So we're going to try to do that program again next year. And my goal is to get enough funding for it that we can offer it all school year so that so the children have that consistency and then the parents too that are there's a lot of working families in our valley that need that childcare. So the ideal thing would be to have it going all school year. So Mondays wouldn't be a problem for those parents. And then um, the ways that you can support that, we have a GoFundMe that I can send you the link to that's been already raising some money towards that. The other great initiative we've been doing is the Bottle Drop Gives Foundation. So they have this awesome program where you can get these blue bags instead of the green bags that you can do for the bottle drop redemption. And then it's just for nonprofits to do fundraisers. And so far we've raised like, I think total close to $1,500 just by filling up these blue bags with recyclables. And then we'll send them home with kids, we'll send them home with parents, people in the community will just bring me bags of cans. So if anyone's interested in that sort of help, that's a really great way to help. And it seems like it's not much, but it really makes a big difference. And I guess the best way to get involved with that would be to contact me directly. I can leave my Sticks and Stones email, and I would just either bring them some blue bags to fill up, or they can always bring me the bags that they've already filled up, like of their own trash bags, and I'll put them in the blue bags. So that would be a great initiative. I'm thinking of trying to find some local businesses, if anyone knows any local businesses that would be willing to put the blue bags out for people to take with them, or even a jar for fundraising. But yeah, so that's what's next. And we'll be doing art programming after school clubs that we have at Rouge. And as I was telling you earlier, a really cool thing that Rouge has done is they have a leadership program for their middle schoolers, and they raised a bunch of money to give out grants specifically for programs that help mental health in kids. And so they gave Sticks and Stones one of their grants to start a mental health focused art club at the school after schools at Ruch. So that's going to be a really fun program next year that I'm also going to try to find a little more funding for to keep that going on year round. So yeah, anything, I mean, everything's just moving up with Sticks and Stones, and we're getting more opportunities for programming and more people interested in helping out. So it's just been really great to bring more art to the community. And I think the community too is like, yeah, we love what the difference that we see in the community because of the influence of art. So yeah, any way to push that forward is great.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie. I'll get all those links from you and I'll put them in the comments so people can click on those and support if they can. And thank you so much for your work in filling this gap in the community. It's having a really big impact on the children and their families and therefore our community at large. So I'm so glad that you hopped in and are taking this on, and I'm hoping for much, much more support headed your way.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, and thanks for having me and giving me the chance to share about this.
Absolutely.